What is going on, everybody? Welcome into episode number 222. Love that for my OCD. Of the allegedly award nominated, honorably mentioned, and of course now viewable on YouTube, Outside the Box podcast, part of the Underground Sports Philadelphia Podcast Network. It's KB and DJ coming at you with a loaded show. We got a lot to dive into. We're going to recap Game 1 of the NLL Conference Finals matchups. We're going to get into Game 2. We're going to get into all these PLL signings and all of these guys we're not going to see for the first 2, maybe 3 weeks of the PLL season. We have a new off-season tournament that DJ and I are stoked about. And, of course, we're also going to talk some NCAA tournament as well, as that is underway. But before we get started, make sure you guys are following us on the socials at OTBLaxPod, Twitter, Instagram. Follow DJ on Twitter at SCS_NextGreat. Follow me on Twitter at KBIZZL311. Check out the website, undergroundsportsphiladelphia.com, for all of our written content. Subscribe to the podcast feeds, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Leave those 5-star ratings and reviews. And, of course, subscribe to the Underground Sports Philadelphia YouTube channel. We are 6 subscribers away from the next, kind of mini milestone of 125 subscribers. So hit that subscribe button, click the like button, hit the bell icon, all that good stuff, and get the comment section flowing. And, of course, join our Twitter communities as well on the twitter.com. Big thank you to our sponsors who make this show happen. Tomahawk Shades, best small batch eyewear in the game. Go to tomahawkshades.com. Use promo code USP. DJ's got some on the way. Got his Tomahawk Shades ready to rock and roll for Albany, which is wild to think about. DJ, we're 2 weeks away from Albany. Going to be a hell of a weekend. Get your Tomahawk Shades ready to rock and roll, and use code USP at checkout for 25% off your order at tomahawkshades.com. Kenwood Beer, the official beer of the Underground Sports Philadelphia Podcast Network. Go to kenwoodbeer.com and use the Kenny tracker to see who's got Kenwood Beer on tap in the Philadelphia area. You got to be 21 or older to do so. And, of course, please drink responsibly. And Bino Board. We're bringing it to all the tailgates, ladies and gentlemen. Get ready. Get ready. You only got a little bit of time left to get those boards in before Albany weekend, all of our people up in Albany, because DJ and I are bringing the board to the tailgate, and we're ready to kick some ass, take some names, and win some tailgate matchups of Bino. Go to binoboard.com and use code BINOUSP. That's BINHOUSP for 10% off your order at checkout, and that includes the new limited edition ultraviolet board that I sent to DJ. And DJ, let the people know how sick that board looks.
Oh, man. Instantly, I thought of Phoenix, their Valley court, and how awesome that looks when they do that, and also Miami Vice's court when they do that. And just immediately I might be buying a Bino board for my house, because that is arguably the best thing I've seen other than Vice City GTA Vice City Sunsets.
It's so gorgeous. And they just teased their first official licensing deal with their first big potential league partner, whatever it may be. If you go to their Instagram and comment and get it right, they're giving away a board. So go over to their Instagram and check that out. Bino USP, though, at checkout for 10% off your order. What's going on, Coach Deej?
Well, played regionals this week. Our season is sadly coming to an end. A few more practices. We got a scrimmage against the girls squad coming up, fundraiser. And then we're packing it in for summer sessions, getting everything rolling. It was a great first year. I had 13 new guys who before this year hadn't picked up a stick. So that was the kind of situation we're in. And they fell in love with the game. They learned a lot. And they're ready to get things rolling. So now that we've gotten past the basics, we're getting actual lacrosse. We're playing lacrosse now, and next year we're going to be a force to reckon with for the next couple of years.
The boys are rolling, and so are the NLL Conference Finals. We're going to recap Game 1 of each matchup in the West and the East. But first things first, do want to send out our love and condolences to everybody in Buffalo. With the senseless and tragic shooting that happened Shout out to friend of the program, Dane Smith, just stepping up to the plate as he always does. Every goal that's scored this week for the Bandits, he's donating $50 towards all the funds and stuff, and a whole bunch of people are matching it, and just a really cool thing from Dane that unfortunately has to happen. So we do want to send our love and our condolences and our well wishes to everybody up in Buffalo. But let's recap these games, Deej. First things first, we had Friday Night Lacrosse last week, and that was the Colorado Mammoth coming through for your boy. I was so proud of the boys out there getting a road dub without Ryan Lee. Unbeknownst to me, had no clue MVP candidate Ryan Lee was not playing in this game. It showed for quite a bunch of this game as well, where they were just missing like his value to the offense. But Zeddy Ballgame stepped up. The Mad Hatter stepped up because that boy Connor Robinson just scoring hat tricks left and right. And the Mammoth win 14-12 over the San Diego Seals in a very entertaining game, very back and forth. But Colorado able to put, the juice on late and walk away with a 2-goal win. Your thoughts on this matchup, even though the Seals didn't come up clutch for you?
Watching the game, I was like, this is exactly what I thought. First game of the series.
Cue the Stephen A. Smith video. This is exactly. I don't mean to sound like Cat Williams, but this is exactly what I've been waiting for.
No, literally, I was like, this is exactly what I thought the series would start off like. Two teams that are pretty familiar with each other, so they didn't do the whole filling out thing. They hopped right into it. Like, I know how to beat you. I know the things you don't like me to do. I know the things that you want to try and do. And they were doing a great job, both sides, of doing what they wanted to do. In the first half, Colorado was doing a great job of making those opportunities. They just weren't able to finish. I mean, Frank the Tank was playing well in net, and then when they did get open opportunities, they just couldn't find the back of the net. San Diego, on the other side, took full advantage of all their opportunities and were finding the back of the net left and right, and it looked like they were going to want to run away with it. But anytime you got Zeddy Ballgame in there, you're not running away with anything. He kind of he took it by lead. Not something we see him do a lot, but he did it a couple times this summer as well with the Whip Snakes. He kind of just took it by example. It's like, hey, I'm just going to come out, score 2 goals right away, and hopefully you guys come up behind me. And that's exactly what Colorado did. And before we looked up, game was over and Colorado won. And I was like, well, what a way to start.
Yeah, I mean, to me, this is what, and I'm not saying that they're going to win the championship or anything, but this is what a championship team does. You're missing your arguably best player of the season. You step up in a big-time way on the road and get a win against a division rival in the conference finals. That's what championship teams do. That's what teams that are going to inevitably win a championship do. I was super impressed by just the poise that Colorado kept. They never, dragged their heels on anything when they went down early. They kept their heads in it. They just put their heads down, focused, came back out in that second half, and really went ham. Like you said, Zed Williams stepped up in a big way. And to me, it always blows my mind that, Zed doesn't take over NLL games the way that he takes over PLL games. You would think it would happen more often, but it's so funny that Zed is almost like just a complimentary piece throughout his NLL career so far, as opposed to being that dominant force. But with Ryan Lee out of the lineup, Zed really took advantage of the opportunity and, pushed right on that gas pedal and stepped up in a big way. C-Rob just continues to be the fucking Mad Hatter, scoring hat tricks every single game. He had one in the first quarter. It was ridiculous. He's been so fun to watch in these playoffs. He's really stepped up in a big way. Dylan Kinnear getting that absurd goal late in the fourth quarter to kind of seal the deal for Colorado as well was super impressive. And I mean, it's not like San Diego played bad in this game either. They played a really solid game. Things just got away from them late when Colorado. It's a game of runs. That's what they say about lacrosse. It's a game of runs, and Colorado just had a longer, deeper run than San Diego did. I was impressed with San Diego's play. I think their offense really showed up again and seems to potentially be turning a corner a bit. But obviously you need more when you're playing against a Colorado team that's hungry. They're, being counted out from the start as a road dog. Very fun matchup, and I'm excited to see how the Loud House turns out this weekend in Colorado with them up 1-0. Toronto and Buffalo, they're just, it's always a classic matchup with them, no matter what time of year, no matter what the circumstance. Bandits win 18-17. Really, it was like 18-16. Tom Schreiber got a late goal with like about 8 seconds left. And I know the broadcast, shout out to Patty Gregoire, was saying, there's still a lot of time on the clock with 8.6 left, which there is with these two teams playing, but you kind of already knew that the game was over. This game was unbelievable. Like, no other real word to describe it. It was back and forth. These two teams were going at it the entire night. As much as I want to see all the players from these two teams this summer as quickly as possible, I hope this series goes 3 games.
I definitely think this series is going 3 games. After watching the Colorado game, this game was completely different. Like, the Colorado game, I was very relaxed until the end, and I just wanted, I didn't even have time to react to what happened. It just happened, and I was like, well, it's over. I'm going to go to bed and forget about it. And then the Sunday game, I couldn't take my eyes off the TV. I was so locked in. I had to watch. It was so back and forth. You didn't know who was going to win, and pretty much until the end when Buffalo pulled away. But they're so even, and there's so much passion, so much almost hatred for each other. It seems like they more want to end the other season than they want to win for themselves. And that's just a special thing. It's like watching the Celtics and the Lakers play. Whether it's regular season or playoffs with those two teams, when they meet, it's just a pure hatred thing. Like, I just don't want to see you win more than I want to see myself win. Loved it. Absolutely loved it.
It's one of the premier rivalries in the league, for sure, if not the best. Obviously, you guys know I've only been covering the league since 2018, 2019, but from everything I've watched over the past 4 years, Buffalo and Toronto is like the rivalry in my book. It's very much like, I don't even know how to put it in like NFL aspect. Like, you want to say it's Brady Manning, but both teams are just so good and back and forth, and they've both won multiple championships in their times, and it's almost, what it really is, as much as people hate comparing lacrosse and baseball aspects, it's Yankees Red Sox. That's exactly what Bandits Rock is. It's Yankees Red Sox. They both hate each other. They're both super successful franchises. They have some of the best talent in the entire league, and they just go pound for pound with each other until that final whistle. And God, I'm just hoping this game goes 3 games, or this series goes 3 games, because it would be absolutely electric. And Colorado better hope they win this week so they get as much rest as possible going into the NLL Championship. But man, what an absolutely awesome opening weekend for the conference finals. DJ, has the state of the fandom changed at all with these 4 teams? Everybody kind of just like on hiatus now? It's kind of neutral?
Yeah, it's pretty neutral right now. Vegas is literally hanging on by threads. Literal threads. Those threads they dropped help a little bit.
They dropped some fire threads as we're recording this.
But they're alternates. So, I mean,
I hope they wear them, though. Like, I hope that's not just like a marketing thing where, like, teams put out stuff. I hope they wear those uniforms, because those are sick. Those should be their primary colors. The blue and yellow plays. We were talking about this before we started recording. Blue and yellow, no matter what shade of blue, always works with sports jerseys. And those pieces of merch that they dropped were amazing. Vegas, I know we weren't on the first round of care packages. If it's because we're going to get these ones, I'm totally okay with that, because these are gorgeous. need them like I need oxygen. And I quote tweeted their tweet with that. So hit me up, slide in the DMs, because I would rock the shit out of those for a month straight. I would wear that hat, I would wear that jersey, all that good stuff. But with no changes in the state of the fandom, let's get right into it. It's real quick and easy. It's only 2 games now that we're worrying about NLL wise, and it's time to feed a couple ducks. With the NLL Conference Finals Game 2 Picks of the Week powered by our good pals over at Pickup. You guys can go to playpickup.com, start playing the hottest headlines in sports, rack up points on your fan profiles, cash them in for prizes on the Pickup Marketplace. That's playpickup.com and start playing those headlines. Coach Deej, 2 electric matchups this week. We get both on Saturday. We get things started in Rock City. Toronto hosting Buffalo at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. How do you see this one playing out?
I just said this one's going to go 3. And I absolutely do believe that. It was so close the first game. They're so evenly matched. They have the face-off piece with TD and with Max. They have both high-powered offenses and the whole 9 there. So the home field has been big, and Toronto's definitely going to show out with this being the one game they get in the semis. Rock City's definitely going to be there. I think they feed off the energy inside the arena, and they take care of business. And we head back to Buffalo with a 1-1 tie.
This is the game I've been weighing so many options for this entire week, with just them being evenly matched for the most part, top to bottom. Like you said, the face-off matchup is there with TD and Max Adler. You have some of the best transition players in the entire league on both of these squads. You got Captain America, Tom Schreiber, doing the damn thing for Toronto. And then you just got all those, chaotic bandits doing the thing for the Bandits. I think the one thing that you just brought up plays a massive factor in this series, and it's home floor advantage. Buffalo has arguably the best in the entire league. I know Buffalo is going to be playing with a ton of emotion this week as well. But Toronto's no slouch at home. They come out, they show out, and I'm with you. I think Toronto steals one at home, forces a game 3, and leaves it all out on the table for a one-game, battle royale to get into the NLL Championship. So I'm going with Toronto as well. Second matchup of the evening, Saturday night as well, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. San Diego heads to the Loud House to take on the Mammoth. Mammoth win, they're in the championship. San Diego wins, they force a game 3, head back to San Diego again. As of recording this, I'm going to pull it up right now just to be sure, because I wish we would get transaction news beforehand. But looking at things right now, still no update as of May 15th for Colorado with Ryan Lee. They showed that they can win without him, though. And I was very impressed by the way that they were able to play offensively and, more importantly, down the stretch defensively in front of Dylan Ward to really stop a high-powered San Diego offense. I got to rock with the boys. I think Colorado wins game 2 at home. Home atmosphere is going to play a big factor. And they've just shown guts where, yes, San Diego, it looks like they turned a bit of a corner with their offense last week, scoring 12 goals. But, again, I just don't trust them with their consistency. They've been so inconsistent over the last 2 months that if you're giving Colorado a home game in the playoffs, giving a shot for all those fans to come out to the Loud House to send their team off to the NLL Finals, I think it's a big dub for Colorado, and that they're on their way to the NLL Championship.
And with no differing picks this week, I'm pulling out the brooms. because Colorado is going to sweep. I think it's just more of not wanting to go back to San Diego with everything on the line, having a chance to close it out at home, getting that extra rest to get Ryan Lee back, be extra healthy going into the tournament. I think, home field, all of that takes full advantage into this. I just think I don't think they want to go back to San Diego.
I agree. I think it's one of those things where they want to close it out. If Ryan Lee doesn't play this week, get him as much rest as possible going into the championship game, whether it's against Toronto or Buffalo. And either way, I think we're set up for a magical NLL championship, whichever of these 4 teams makes it. But no differing picks. Like DJ said, we're both going Toronto and Colorado to win this week. And those are your NLL Conference Finals Game 2 picks of the week, powered by Pickup. Speaking of the NLL Finals, means a lot of these guys are not going to be available for opening weekend, for week 2, and potentially week 3 of this PLL season. So we've got PLL signings galore, Deej. This past week, most notably, our boys from Chaos signing a shit ton of players. Atlas going and signing some players. Cannon signing some players. Archer signed a few players as well. But let's talk about this Chaos team, because they signed the most loaded free agent roster from the player pool that we've seen in quite some time, especially with just a mass signing. I'm going to run through these names that I believe are all of them for the people. So with obviously the Chaotic Bandits out for potentially 3 weeks to start the PLL season, they got to go get some guys. They got to go get their boys. So these are some of your new members of Chaos Lacrosse Club for the short term or potentially long term, depending on how they play. You never know, what Andy Towers is going to pull up his sleeve and make some roster changes with. But Kevin Lindley from Loyola obviously was in the draft. He's now officially on the roster. Tommy Palasek, back from the dead, the boy. Shout out to Tommy P. Played with Chrome last year. He is back and on this Chaos roster. An OG Chaos training camp member, Joe Resitardis, DJ's arguably MVP favorite. If Albany had gone further in the postseason, he is back with Chaos. Ty Thompson is part of this Chaos team. Bubba Voigt signs with Chaos. And the boy, friend of the program, Bryce Wasserman, who played 1 game with Chaos last season, is back with the squad. Here is the biggest addition, in my opinion, that when I saw this roster get announced, I was floored, flabbergasted, speechless. I texted DJ in all caps. I couldn't believe it. Number 21 for your Philadelphia Wings, the big cat, Mr. Crowley himself. Kevin Crowley is now in the PLL. Never thought I'd see the day, DJ. Never thought I'd see the day that Kevin Crowley signed to a PLL roster. It was just one of those things that, it's not that he's old, but he's getting older. He's in his 30s, and having not signed after the MLL merger with the PLL, I just didn't know if he had any interest of continuing his field career. But here he is now in, I think, the most perfect situation with Andy Towers, box lacrosse on a field scheme. And he's going to be playing for at least 2 weeks with this Chaos team. And I could not be more stoked that week 1 up in Albany, we're potentially going to be seeing the big cat suiting up in those Chaos uniforms, looking schnazzy.
My first thought was, how could a roster that was already impossible to dwindle down to an active roster become more impossible to dwindle down to an active roster? Like, if they were healthy and didn't have to deal with the PLL stuff, they arguably have the hardest team to dwindle down to 22 guys to put on an active roster for game day. And then you go and add these boatload of guys.
And that's not even all of them. We haven't even talked about all of them.
No, and so now it's like you got this whole nother boatload of guys who are going to play for 2-3 weeks, and then you're going to possibly tell them they're not playing anymore, or you're going to tell some guy who has been playing in your system for a year, 2 years, 3 years that he's not going to play because this new guy is going to play. Like, what do you do in this scenario? Do you start just changing your active game day roster every game because you have that many guys to do it? Like, who gets into some kind of flow because you allow a guy to stay in the active roster for enough games to figure himself out? Like, there's so many questions to ask. This is why being a coach was not a good decision for the pod. My brain is
it was the best and worst decision for me.
Yes, because my brain just goes 1,000 different miles when these kind of things happen, because it instantly goes from fan watching the game and interacting with what's going on to, okay, if this was my team, what would I do? To total coach brain. Like, if I had this team, I wouldn't know who to put out ever, because it's like, well, I could make a case for every single guy on my roster and how they could help the squad. I'm excited to see AT play around with this roster and put out 22 guys week by week and see how similar or how different they are every week.
Continuing with the Chaos signings, Eddie Bohal on defense signs with Chaos. Brett Kennedy, obviously, in the draft signs. So he is now under contract. Sean Quinn signed from the player pool, the pride of Drexel University. He's somebody that I'm keeping an eye on just because Johnny Surdyk's out. And obviously they drafted Brett Kennedy, but, you got to have a little bit of depth on the defense. You can't just keep 3 guys there. But that's going to be interesting to watch.
They picked up, I think you're going to say in a second, but I want to say Gibson Smith as well.
Well, he actually went to
he got drafted.
The other squad that's in red.
It was the other Georgetown guy that we were talking about on the draft.
Yeah.
Draft thing. He got picked up by Chaos.
The lifeguard of the player pool is no longer on duty. Jerry Raganese, after having not played since 2019 with the Woods, he is back and on this Chaos team, along with Tommy Kelly, officially back. That signing made official as well. And then adding to Austin Cott and Blaze Reardon, Mike Adler, now part of this Chaos roster as well. Chaos just went all out and got some of the best talent. Super impressed by the way that they were able to just maneuver and go out and get some of these guys. They were the ones that stood out the most to me. But to look at some of these other signings as well, that's, some of the key guys that are on the transaction wire. Jacob Stover goes from the player pool to Water Dogs. You had, let's see here, Charlie Hayes released by Whipstinks into the player pool. The Boy, friend of the program, pride of the Georgia Swarm, pride of Syracuse University, and now back with his boys up top, Shane Jackson and Lyle Thompson, dropping bombs for Cannons. What a perfect signing. Brendan Bomberry, ready to drop bombs in a Cannons uniform. He signs from the player pool with Cannons. Tyler Pace goes from the player pool to Water Dogs. Riley O'Connor, I like this signing a lot, goes from the player pool to Atlas. Everybody knows him, obviously, from the Albany Firewolves. Some other interesting signings here. Gibson Smith, our guy, Deej, he goes to Whipsnakes as an undrafted free agent. Joel Tinney released by Atlas into the player pool. We had Hugh Krantz added to the holdout list from Redwood's active roster. We also had pretty much every draft pick signed, which is a good sign. But man, I think outside of the Chaos signings, Brendan Bomberry in the PLL is so exciting to me.
Yeah, and I hadn't really just thought about it until we were talking about it pre-pod. Looking at something we'll talk about a little later with guys who play NLL and PLL. The only team who really needed to go sign a bunch was Chaos. They're the hardest hitting squad as far as guys who play both PLL and NLL. So, like, I guess I wasn't surprised to see them go get so many guys, and how easy it was for them because nobody else was really pulling for those guys. You know, they were there because nobody else needed them. Everybody else is really in a position where their NLL guys are already out, and you know they're good, or they're only missing one or two guys from the NLL, or their guys just don't play NLL and they're going out with pretty much the same roster they had last year.
I think the next most missing players is 3 from Archers.
Yeah,
they're missing Warren Jeffrey, Connor Fields, and Tom Schreiber.
Yep.
And Luttrell. They have 4.
I think they are next up. And then my biggest thing with this free agency class, the dropping of Joel Tenney is interesting. I mean, I saw it coming eventually. He
didn't play last year.
Didn't play last year. I don't believe he played or got much PT in the 2020 Championship Series either. He played a little bit the first year, but that was it. He's going to be a guy I watch. He's still very, very useful. Has a lot of speed, vision, can shoot the ball. Very good offensive midfielder. Good pick for Cannons, in my opinion. In a midfield that hasn't really shown themselves and with a lot of holes in an attack unit that is already ridiculous with both the guys that are supposed starters, with air quotes, and the guys who aren't starters. So to add a guy like Joel Tenney to that lineup could really boost them up a level. So I'll be interested to see if Sean Quirk goes and grabs him, or if he stays, or if anybody else picks him up. Coach Nat.
If they weren't so loaded, I would say it'd be perfect for Chaos too.
Yeah,
Canadian guy, has box experience.
Yeah, and I just think about his time at Johns Hopkins. Like, he played a very Chaos midfield-like role there. So, like, he definitely could fit in there. But once again, where is he going to play and when?
But I think my big 3 of just, like, whoa, was Kevin Crowley first and foremost, Brendan Bomberry, and then seeing Jerry back is just exciting. I'm excited for the PLL player pool lifeguard to be off duty for a little bit. Hopefully he trains some more lifeguards for the player pool, because we don't want anybody drowning out there in the player pool, okay? Stay safe out there. Make sure you don't go swimming 30 minutes after you eat.
Can he bring me some hot sauce to Albany? That's the question. Can you bring me some hot sauce to Albany?
Talk to him real quick, Deej. Let him know. Hold on. Let's do this for the people. Let's do it the correct way. Talk to him.
The homie Jerry. What is up, big dog? Like, first off, absolutely hilarious. I love all the work you do with the face-off guys. Honestly, I've been watching a few of them in their college work, and they've been putting in well. Also, high school guys are doing well. Excited to see you back in the league, first and foremost. Like, watching you play against Connor Farrell is going to be unreal. Just the battle and the passion you guys play with is going to be top-notch. That's arguably going to be one I have circled to watch strictly for the face-off battle. I do that occasionally. I watch some games just for face-off. TD and Trevor, by the way, looking forward to that. Back to you, Jerry. You're also one of the best cooks I see on Twitter. Like, you're always cooking something. You're making that hot sauce and everything else you got going on, spaghetti sauce and, I don't know, pasta, all the stuff you do with your grandma. It's amazing. Either way, it looks good, and I need some hot sauce ASAP. I'll be in Albany with the guy KB. He ain't really into all the hot stuff, but I am.
No, I'm about the hot sauce.
My bad. He's into the hot sauce. We need some hot sauce. Bring us some hot sauce to Albany. I got a beer or whatever you want on me.
Bring some Kenny's for the boy.
I'll bring some Kenny's. You bring some hot sauce. Let's make a fair trade. You win your game. I have a good time. It sounds amazing to me. I'll see you in Albany June 4th/5th. Whichever day you want to meet up, let me know.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. What a soliloquy for Jerry Raganese. Yeah, I'm about the hot sauce, not about the ranch life, though.
Oh, we'll talk about that. Not
about the ranch life.
You got to know, man, I'm from the Midwest. You can't be disrespecting ranch on the public internet like
And then I got Brandon Kane coming at my neck. Brandon, I thought we were friends.
You can't be disrespecting Ranch on the open internet like that.
Can't do it. It's not for me. It's not for me.
You can say it. You just can't be openly saying it on the internet.
Hey, I'll openly say it because it's truth. But here we go. Shout out Scotty Royster. The PLL signings though, fantastic, and I hope Jerry brings us some hot sauce. That'd be electric. DJ, I'll let you take the reins on this because when I first saw this news, didn't realize it was pros at first, but now I know. We got that cleared up. Your boy had a very eventful, frustrating, and hair-pulling out-esque Wednesday when the news was announced. But we've got a PLL 6's off-season tournament that, from producing top bins a ton, it's giving Champions League soccer vibes, which I'm very excited about. I love any opportunity for another trophy. It's kind of off-season Alterna Cup NLL-wise, in my opinion. But you played in some sixes. Talk to the people. Give us your excitement levels. An off-season PLL tournament, that means something. It's not just for fun. There's cash involved. There's bragging rights. There's a title involved. Talk to the people. You're the sixes, experience aficionado.
So, first and foremost, I believe this is a plan, mostly to do with the Olympics. We saw the new college league come out this year with the HBCUs, which was also sixes, and now we see the PLL did their sixes thing this summer. There was the England sixes this past summer as well, and now we have this off-season tournament coming with sixes, and it's all really, in my opinion, a push for the Olympic Committee to see that sixes is an enjoyable game that people will want to watch, that a lot of countries can get lacrosse into the Olympics to start the conversation to go 10v10. A lot of people hate this idea. That's another conversation for another time. But
I tell those people, fuck them.
Yes, absolutely. I love this idea, though. I think it's amazing to do something off season. It continues with the having lacrosse year round. We literally only get that month and a half break from October to the middle of November, and we're right back into it. I love the idea. And it also gives those guys who don't play NLL an opportunity to do something. It's a 12-man roster, so everything has to be super condensed. That's what we were talking about with guys who don't play NLL or guys who do play both and what the rosters will look like. I think it gives a strong advantage to teams like Chrome, teams like the Redwoods, Whip Snakes, guys who don't have a lot of NLL players or their big-time players aren't NLL guys, so they can put them on that roster. But it's going to be – my biggest thing with this is looking at the rosters and seeing which guys can go two ways. Like I said, you're taking your 22 game day roster and shrinking it by 10. You're probably only going to put one goalie on there because the chances of your goalie getting hurt are pretty low. So you're only going to put one goalie on there, and we talked about it. Face-off guy might or might not get left off. Depends on how you personally feel about that. And then the other 10 guys on your roster have to play both offense and defense, being all short sticks, very back and forth, very fast game. There's not a lot of subbing. You get your face-off at the beginning of each period, and then after that, you score, you pull it, the goalie pulls it out of the net, and they just toss it out. Very much like basketball, very back and forth. People's main problem with it is the lack of face-offs, no deep holes, so the defense has dramatically gone down. And smaller fields, so a lot less rules and that kind of thing. And they also feel like there's too many ways to play lacrosse now. But I'm sorry, do you know anything about basketball? There's 3v3, there's 21, there's Thunder and Lightning, there's a traditional game, there's pickup. I mean,
there's horse.
Yeah, I'd go on and on with how many different basketball games there are in the world.
And then there's college, men's and women's. There's WNBA. There's NBA. There's FIBA.
And let me tell you, the difference between FIBA rules and NBA rules, they get real.
There's Olympic.
And Olympic rules are different than FIBA rules, which are different than NBA. Like, we can go on and on with how almost every sport has different variations. That's how
EuroLeague.
That's how the sport grows. And like you said, this does give off that Champions League feel with the top four going. And I think Joe Keegan said on Twitter is now every game actually means something. And I absolutely believe that. I think teams are going to want to participate and win this Sixes off season. The cash. I mean, these players don't make a ton of money. So that cash prize is like a bonus. It's like that Super Bowl bonus for NFL players, or that playoff bonus for NBA players. Like, they're going to want to get to this tournament and win it. Not only for the bragging rights, not only for, the trophy, but for that cash. And could you imagine being the first team to win both the Sixes tournament and the PLL in the same year?
The fan base's banter on Twitter will be elite, because, like I said, producing top ends, like I get a gist of the soccer world and just like the banter that goes on if you win a ton of trophies in a season, like Liverpool has for Matt this year. If Redwoods ended up winning 2 trophies in a season, you and I would be unbearable.
They'd kick me out the Discord.
be like wilding out. Kick them out the classroom.
Which, by the way, get into the Discord if you're not into it yet. Because I told them right away, being a league mod, I told them right away when they dropped that tweet. And not even 5 minutes later, I got into our mod chat and I was like, there needs to be a Championship Series channel right now, because that conversation is going to take off immediately when people see that. I had to be one of the first few people to see it, because there's only like one quote tweet, no retweets when I saw it. So I just hopped in and was like, that's going to blow up. And surely 10 minutes later, people were in the general chat just like talking about Sixes. And so, I mean, it generates a lot of conversation, gets a lot of eyes in the game. I never hate the idea of Sixes. I like it a lot. And when you think about the general sports fan, what do they like? Action, lots of scoring, fast pace. What is Sixes? Action, lots of scoring, and fast pace. If we want the sport to grow, we have to, quote unquote, sacrifice a little bit, let them see Sixes, and then draw them into box and 10v10 and women's lacrosse and 3v3 speed lacrosse and West Jenny and all these other various ways we play. Use something very appealing first and then work them in.
Because I'll say this. If you're a box lacrosse fan, you're an NLL fan, let's say, and you've never really dabbled into the field game in terms of, fandom, or you've just followed players that play for your specific NLL team, this Sixes tournament is the closest merger in terms of play style, speed, and everything involved, because rules-wise, it's a little bit different.
They even have the
30-second shot clock instead of 52, like a traditional PLL game, which is your NLL shot clock, is 30 seconds. It's 4 8-minute quarters instead of 4 12-minute quarters. And like DJ said, it's a 70 by 36 meter field, so a little bit, easier and quicker to get up and down the field. This is your closest equivalent to box on a field, outside of watching a chaos game.
Yeah, I mean, we're literally talking about, you look at a traditional field game takes 2, 3 to 4 passes to set up a fast break. And in 6-on-6, we're literally talking about make the save, outlet, shot off the catch, because that's how much space is on this field. We could see goal, pass, goal, pass, goal, pass, goal, pass from both sides, because both sides can just move the ball that efficiently with the amount of space. Like, there are so many advantages that come with lacrosse for growing the sport and looking at the average person, that I think us as lacrosse fans have to take a step back and think about coming into the sport what we would have liked. Some of us got lucky and had parents and stuff who were already into the sport and brought us in, with field and stuff like that. But like me being brought in with friends, I got brought in with field. But had they shown me Sixes first, I would have been in 2, 3, 4 years earlier than I got in. It would have been more exciting. I would have been more about that. Not that I don't love lacrosse and field and 10v10 for what it is, but It's something about a speed and an action element that brings in new eyes.
And I got in with the box game, and if, Sixes was around that summer going into PLL and MLL at the time, I probably would have gravitated towards that first to kind of learn the ins and outs and the intricacies of the field game, because there is a lot of differences compared to the box game, where I had to learn a lot more. I had to learn what the hell a long pole was. I had to learn, more of, just the intricacies of, switches and who's who and, whatnot. But I think this is such a fantastic, addition to the PLL. And like you said, it's going to make every single team want to play that much harder throughout the rest of the season, whether they're in or out. But they're going to be fighting for those top 4 spots so they qualify for the Sixers Championship, a.k.a. the Championship Series, which I love that they're recycling that name from the 2020 Championship Series. It's now got another meaning. It won't start until 2023, they said, so still got to wait a little bit. But right now, before the 2022 season starts, if you had to pick who you think is going to qualify for the very first championship series in terms of Sixes, which 4 teams do you think are going to be playing in the first one?
Ironically, I'm going to take the same top 4 from last year. I do think the Whips will have a little bit of a bounce back year, but I think a lot of the teams are over the Whips kind of just running through them, and they're going to play with kind of a different fire this year. Teams are looking to get into that conversation of being a champion. They saw that it's not just the Whip Snakes anymore. Chaos beat them. It can be done. So I do think it'll be Redwoods, Water Dogs, Archers, Atlas. I think those will be top 4. And out of those 4, my chances are with my boys, Redwoods. And it's more of the fact that looking at their roster, they lose.
I think we said 3 guys.
I think it was 4. It was 4. It was TD, Ryan Lee, Clark Peterson, and Charlie Bertrand.
And Isaiah Davis Allen. So 5.
So 5.
I forgot about Charlie.
So honestly, if you ask me, the biggest loss there, in my opinion, is Isaiah Davis Allen.
Mm-hmm.
Because in my opinion, no offense to P. Harb or to Jack Neer, but Isaiah Davis Allen is our best short stick defensive midfielder.
And he's a top 3 in the league.
And that is something you need playing Sixes, having to play both sides of the ball, having a guy who can pass and catch a little bit, has a decent shot, but is an amazing D guy, is very helpful. So that'll be the biggest hit they have. But looking at the offense, you have Nakai, Mitch Bartolo, Serge, Jules,
Miles,
Ryder, Miles, and Cav,
RP3,
who can both definitely go both ways. RP3 would be that one guy who for sure subs off. I don't see RP3 playing a lot of defense. No offense to him, but he's kind of on the older side, very good offensively. He's going to play offense and get off. But the rest of their team is pretty solid going both ways. They can always put a short stick in John Sexton's hands or in I would love to see Arden Cohen play some short stick team and play some PLL Sixes. So I think as far as guys who don't play NLL in the transfer, Redwoods have the best chances. But those are the 4, and really any one of those 4 could take it.
Now, I'm approaching this with teams are going to play well, and they may not have all their guys going into the Sixes tournament. I think Woods will qualify. I think Chaos will qualify, and that's when we'll see Andy Towers having to switch up his roster a ton for the Sixes tournament, which will be super fun. I think Archers will qualify. And then I'm torn between Atlas and Whips. That's where I think it's more of a coin toss. It'll be interesting to see just, how things progress with them. And I think Atlas might have a better chance just because they're so deep everywhere. Like, they're almost playing positionless lacrosse at this point, just because they're just adding so many guys, just talent. Not that I'm counting Water Dogs out. I just want to see how they continue to progress with so many new guys on the roster this year too. And obviously, this isn't even going to really matter for this year. It matters for 2023. But that's my prediction. I think, every team's going to have a good shot. And it's going to be fun to see, like, which teams consistently stay in the top 4 for their run and of the core that they have right now. And then which teams are building towards getting to that point and then overtake some of those, original squads.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, this year's results depend on who's in the first championship series, I would believe.
Okay.
So it's the summer before that February is the standings they would go off of. So whoever's top 4 in August before we get to playoffs would be the top 4 that plays.
Yeah, because it's February 2023.
Yeah. So I think whoever's top 4 at the end of this year, which is why I went with what I went with, because I was like, those one they left off last year playing very well, top 4, all coming back pretty healthy, and most of them, those are the 4 who were pretty much affected the least by NLL signings. Chaos is, I don't want to say they won't make it, but it's almost like, I'll say they can make it.
Mm-hmm.
They're that 15 that's right on the cusp, but it's the beginning of the season that worries me. 3 games is quite a bit in a PLL season, and if they go 1-2 or they go 0-3, God forbid, literally, because I don't see it happening, but it's a possibility.
Right.
That really hinders their chances of qualifying.
Yeah, I'm super excited about this, and like you said, it's a push for the Olympics and everything, just to see how things will play out there. I'm excited. This just adds another element to the game, to this league, and is just making it that much more and more legit. Not that it already wasn't, but even more of something that fans can get behind, and it's going to create a better passion for fandoms now, because there's multiple trophies up for grabs, which is always exciting to see your team hoist a trophy at the end of a season or a tournament or whatever it may be.
Something I haven't asked, but it's been on my mind. I'm probably going to drop it in the Discord sometime soon, but do we see different jerseys for the championship series?
Is this where the third jerseys come out?
This where third jerseys come out? Is this where we see pennies actually get used? Like, what kind of thing are they going to go with here? And where are they going to play?
That's my big question, because it's February.
Are they staying local, as in, domestic? Which, if they're doing that, it immediately means they're either in a Florida, which probably not, because it gets cold in Florida, it gets cold in Texas. So they're probably more in Arizona or Cali or Las Vegas, which somebody did hint at Las Vegas by the name of Michael Rabel on Twitter. So it's probably going to be one of those 3 places, though, or out of the country, because they've talked about going out of the country as well, which I got my passport
already too. They did that, after the first year of the PLL. Remember, they brought a bunch of guys over to Japan.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But no, I think they've been talking about like playing a game, mm-hmm. and going legit out of the country. And so, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see this be an opportunity. It's only 9 games, so they'll only be there for 3, 4. You can do it in a weekend, really, in all reality. Because
my initial guess would be, if they went out of the country,
it'd be 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
Mexico City.
Ooh. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That would be my first guess.
Maybe Jamaica.
That's very true too.
Or one of the England countries. I mean, I have my passport, so I don't mind leaving the country if this is feasible.
Gotta get on that.
You might want to get on that.
Yeah. I also could see Florida, because even though it does get cold, it's still, 75 degrees in Florida, and that's cold for Florida. And, with the ESPN thing, we talked about this for almost a year. Worldwide of Sports is right there, and I think that's a plausible spot as well. But this just adds more topic to the discussions that we'll have on this podcast. We'll be, covering the Sixes tournament, the championship series, whatever you want to call it, very closely. And it's just another style of lacrosse that we're going to be able to talk about on this show, which is super exciting. Just like we talk about the NCAA tournament, which DJ, I was watching some of the games this past weekend, and while the talent is very, very fun to watch for a lot of these teams, it was very good to see Connor Busick on the sidelines for Cornell. I got to tell you, man, whoever is part of the NCAA lacrosse, higher ups, we got to make this faster than an 80-second shot clock. Because watching the NLL as intently as I do, watching the PLL as intently as I do, it just gets so boring watching guys set up for 40, 50, 60 seconds. And then when you break it down in your brain, you sit there, it's 12-minute quarters. It's almost, only 12 possessions a quarter between both teams. And it's so slow and so slow developing unless you have snipers on your team that can shoot from just about anywhere, which a lot of these teams in the tournament have. But when you're watching some of these first round matchups, you want to see the excitement, you want to see a lot of offense, you want to see how some of these quote unquote unranked teams go up against the ranked teams and stuff like that. But when the shot clock is taking so fucking long, it's like watching paint dry. I can't sit and watch Cornell, Yale, not Cornell. Cornell's a bad example. Yale, St. Joe's, or, watching some of these lower end teams taking forever to set up their offense. And it's no slight at the team. They're getting that opportunity because that's what the shot clock is. That's the rules they play under. But even give us a 60-second shot clock. Make it close. The biggest thing I see on lacrosse Twitter with just everybody, whether it's the high school level, college level, and then to the pros, everybody wants to make things more streamlined, which I completely agree with. I'm on that same soapbox when it comes to NCAA men's basketball, where it should be 4 quarters that they're playing instead of 2 halves. Get them more prepared to play at the next level. You should be getting these lacrosse players more prepared to play at the PLL level. If they're, Canadian guys playing at a college in the U.S., get them more prepared for a higher, fast-paced game at the NLL level and the PLL level. It's just so slow. And I think I brought this up with Harrison before, and I brought this up with Dom before. I don't know if I ever brought it up with you. I think that's the biggest reason before he got injured why Michael Sowers looked so bad to start his PLL career, is because he was so used to having that time to set up what his move was going to be that when the PLL clock hit for him, it was such a quick pace thing that he didn't have all that time to set up like he normally did in his college career. And that's why we didn't see him, scoring like the sniper we know, that he is throughout his college career. And then obviously he got hurt and he looked much better coming back in the playoffs and everything for that one game. But I just need whoever is part of the rules committee for college lacrosse, let's examine this shot clock a little bit. Even if it's, 10 seconds off and you do it, slow, intricate, progressions. Don't do it all at once. I understand that. You want to get guys more acclimated, but I think we just need to streamline the college game, especially now that the PLL is here, to be that stepping stone for the pro game.
I think it's pretty even in terms of, size of the field and the way that you clear most of the time in college and just how the college game runs. It makes more sense to have 80. You knock it down to 60 and, it actually takes you the full 20 to clear. You got 40 seconds to go. That's not a lot of time for a college team, I'll say. So I feel like it's set for a certain reason. I'll say 80s. I could see 70.
Well, even if you don't knock it down to 60 right away, I could say you knock it down to 70.
I could see 70 or 65. staying and not working, just with terms of clearing in the 20-second clock and subbing and having enough time to actually run an offense and keep the game in a competitive standing, I will say, would probably be their argument. My problem with the rules committee is the size of the tournament. We've gotten to the point to where 16 is too small. We need to go up. It has to go up. I don't care if it's a term of giving buys to certain teams so that, more teams can be in, but with the level of talent that was missed out of this year's tournament, that right there should be enough to say it has to go up. There were too many teams that didn't get in this year that deserved to be in because there just weren't enough spots. I'm not saying the Ivy League didn't deserve all the spots they got, but you can't tell me a Duke team didn't deserve to be in this year.
NIT, baby.
You can't tell me a Notre Dame team didn't deserve to be in this year. I'd even make an argument for Jacksonville to make it in this year.
100%.
Even after losing to Richmond in their conference tournament. Like there were teams around the country that deserved to be in the tournament this year that didn't get in because there weren't enough spots. That has to be addressed. Even if we just go to 24 and not 32, that's enough.
Or even have an NIT. We joke about it with Duke all the time with people complaining about them losing in February, but have some sort of equivalent to the NIT tournament.
I mean, I'm fine with doing that, bringing in an NIT and then upgrading all these MCLA teams to NCAA teams, and you move up to 32 or whatever in the tournament. You got 32. Everybody who doesn't make the tournament goes and plays in the NIT. That's amazing as well. There just has to be a way to, one, get more MCLA teams into D1. There's no reason there shouldn't be an ACC, or not an ACC, an SEC lacrosse. There's almost every single one of those schools has an MCLA team. Just make them a Division I conference.
Which, speaking of MCLA, shout out to Utah being the very first school to be D1 and an MCLA squad.
North Carolina has a MCLA squad now as well, and
I think they're the first to go from MCLA to D1, first jump, and then get an MCLA back.
They were, but because they just opened up that you could have both this coming season. So Duke and North Carolina obviously hopped on that. And I think a couple others as well have both MCLA and D1. But that's the thing. Those kind of things can be done as well. But I think it starts with expanding the NCAA tournament so more teams can get in. So we don't have all of these matchups that we got this year in the first round. Maryland and Vermont. Virginia and Brown.
Shout out to Vermont for getting off the bus.
But I mean, I won't even say that, because you look at the first quarter and a half of that game, and Vermont looks like they were in it. Looked like it was going to be a full out game, and then Maryland just ran away. And that was right after Vermont. I mean, they smacked Manhattan around. They beat them 15-3. Delaware won their opening play.
Shout out to the CAA, baby.
They won 20-8 over Robert Morris.
And then they upset Georgetown.
And Rutgers playing Harvard 19-9.
Rutgers looks good, man.
Those are the kind of games we don't want in the first round. Or if we are going to get those, we
need more teams in.
We need more teams in. Go to 32 and give those first 8 teams a bye, and then let Rutgers blow out Jacksonville in the first round instead. So something like that. Just get more teams out there, give more teams a chance. But I mean, so far this tournament has been great. Other than those first games I just mentioned,
shout out to homie too from Delaware, pointing at the CAA patch on his sleeve. What a weapon! What a move! Just a savage.
Speaking of Delaware, the Delaware-Georgetown game might be the best game of the tournament so far.
Oh yeah, 100% agree.
It's either that one or the Richmond and Penn game. Those were both one-goal games that were won in the final few seconds. The Delaware, it was unreal watching a Delaware game. He scored with, I think, 8 seconds left, and I was watching. I was like, "Oh, this
on
is
such an awkward shot too."
Yeah, I was like, "This is going to go to overtime." Georgetown's defense is way too good. I've bragged on them all year about how good they are as a unit, and this is going to go overtime. I can't wait to see what's going to happen. And then all of a sudden, pass shot, and I was like, "Oh, wow, this game is over." And I mean, there's 8 seconds left, and they won it forward and almost got a shot off, but then the game was over, and I was like, that might have been the best game of the tournament, and it's only the first round. But then you watch the Richmond and Penn game later that same day, and you're like, or is this the best game of the tournament? Penn also won at the last second on another unorthodox shot. And I mean, I just don't know what to think of this weekend. Rutgers Penn is going to be unreal. Their offenses are insane. That's what I'm more excited about. So it's going to be a tale of defense that day. What defense shows up, what goalie has a better day, which I'm leaning with Rutgers on that one because of Big Boy Curse's brother. He's been amazing this year for Rutgers.
Which I texted you this over the weekend, too. I said, are the Curse brothers the new Bernhardts?
In which I went, well, we can add the Cav brothers and have a whole conversation.
They're like, it's like, I never watched Game of Thrones, but it's like, the amount of families in Game of Thrones. It's like, we got this castle, we got this castle, Castle Cursed, we got Castle Cav, Castle Bernhardt. It's like the Harry Potter houses.
Castle Macintosh is in there now.
10 points for Kirstendor.
And I mean, Princeton Yale plays this weekend. Anytime 2 Ivy Leagues match, which I want to go off on record and say I apologize to the Ivy League, which I think a lot of other people should apologize to the Ivy League. A lot of people are saying, the committee just gave them a makeup tourney for last year, and a lot of teams didn't deserve the placements they got. They came out and played. Other than Harvard, in my opinion, who took a very tough L, Cornell absolutely showed out against Ohio State.
Battled back after being down 4-0 early.
They did something my team did. I had to yell at my team the other day because they weren't sliding, weren't playing body. I called a timeout and I grabbed a kid by his chest pad and I'm like, hit someone, like just get physical and hit someone, like use your body. I'm literally like
screaming. You went a little Andy Towers on him.
Like dog, he's this far away from my face. I'm sure he could smell whatever I ate.
Pushed him in the chest. Let's fucking go.
I'm sure he smelled whatever I ate for lunch. And I just turned on everybody else and I was like, and I'm not just yelling at him. I'm yelling at you. I'm yelling at you. I just felt like Oprah.
You get yelled at. You get yelled at.
But like they came out of that timeout and they just started flying around. And like that's what it looked like for both Cornell and Virginia this past weekend. Like Cornell came out after halftime. I don't know what Connor Busick said in that locker room.
Said, do you want me to dislocate your shoulders?
They came out firing on all cylinders. And he didn't have to dislocate any shoulders, which he obviously knows how to do because he popped his right back in place and went back into a game.
And scored a goal.
And scored a goal immediately after that. So they came out and their offense literally tic-tac-toe, putting goals in the back of the net, ran away with that. Same thing with Virginia. Brown kept it very close for 3 quarters. This was a game I thought could possibly come down to the last possession or go to overtime. And Virginia came out in the 4th quarter and said, nah, bro, here's 8 goals in a row for you, and we'll just blow this game open. And I was unreal. It went from 8 to, I think it was like 8-9. It went from 8-9 to 17-8 in a matter of, I think it was like 6 minutes, 7 minutes. And I was like, oh, wow.
And now we get a semifinal matchup of number 1 Maryland against defending champ Virginia.
Which obviously circle it. I'm so glad it's Saturday and not Sunday, so I won't even be close to missing any of this because of church. 2:30 p.m. Saturday. I am very much unreachable because I'll be watching Maryland beat Virginia because Maryland penciled in, obviously. Everyone should have them penciled in right now as their champion until they lose. Mm-hmm. I was telling KB pre-show, I believe they're going to join the ranks of the unbeaten champions. They're just that good. I haven't really seen anybody stumble them up this year other than Ohio State. And they had another close game. I want to say Rutgers. But, I mean, they also were close in those games and then just pulled away out of nowhere and showed that they're better than everyone else. Like I said, I have Maryland. going in, penciled in until the end. The other very exciting games for me personally, Rutgers, Penn, and I just want to see how far Delaware is going to make it.
I'm pulling for the Hens.
If they beat Cornell, I wouldn't be opposed to writing them down to make it to the championship. That's all. They ain't gonna win it. But if they beat,
could you imagine?
Cornell, the state of Delaware will be on fire.
I would go. I'm close enough.
Yeah, dude.
They would have the side talk guys there. What do you want to say to Delaware graduate Joe Byron right now?
Just please FaceTime me when you get there.
Bing bong.
Take me out on a date.
Sup, Joe? Take me out to dinner. Hey, yo. I'm pulling for the Blue Hens, man. What a cool story.
Yeah, I mean, I'm down with the Blue Hens. They had my guy Matt DeLuca, who I really want to wear that green Woodward's jersey so bad. He was amazing there. I've always been a Blue Hens fan. They're one of those.
A lot of friends of the program went to Delaware. Chris Collins, Curtis Dixon, Charlie Kitchen. A lot of Delaware fans of OTB.
There's that, and there's that Delaware isn't really good at any other sports. Like, they're almost known for their lacrosse team. Like,
I love lacrosse that. And Joe Flacco.
Yeah, like, I love that about Delaware. Like, you can go there and be like, "Oh yeah, I play lacrosse," and they're like, "What? You play? You must be pretty good." Like, that's so awesome to me. So to see them be able to make it this far, even this year, is amazing. Because, I mean, next year, who knows? Sure, they lose this week to Cornell. That's tough. Next year, they make the semis, or they make championship, or whatever. It's just awesome to see teams like this grow, because then it shows these lower level D1s do deserve that automatic bid because they make things happen with them. And which is why we need more of those in. Jacksonville, High Point. Why are we not watching Asher Knowlton in the tournament game?
We need that. And the amount of talent we're talking about that's not in the tournament and in the tournament right now, with some of these surprise teams, with some of just the teams that, unfortunate exits, this is why we need 2 more expansion teams in the PLL. On top of the guys who got signed as replacement players, basically. This is why we need 2 more expansion teams.
Yeah, I mean, expansion needs to come. I understand why they're
100%
doing it the way they are and pausing, but, like, there's no reason why they couldn't. I shouldn't say there's no reason, but there's no real reason why they couldn't have done one this year. They easily could have just went ahead, done one, and had a whole squad off of guys picked up off of player pool and all of that without even drafting anyone. Like, there's so much talent out there that's not being used.
Chaos just filled a whole roster.
Literally just filled a whole roster that they were missing half of off of the player pool. So once expansion gets going and they start dropping 2-3 teams at a time, we'll start to see the league fill up, and maybe they'll call your boy for a tryout.
Just saying. And I mean, it would be cool because then it's like it sends more scouts out and develops like that aspect of the league where it's like, okay, teams are hiring scouts now to go out, while Nat St. Laurent is coaching at, his college, and you have all these other coaches, around the college game. They don't have to necessarily worry about going and recruiting some of your second, third, fourth round picks. You hire scouts to do it. And I think that's such an undervalued aspect of what expansion can do for the PLL and what an expanded NCAA tournament can do, is that you add more jobs to the sport. You get more scouts in. Like, it's a no-brainer in my opinion.
And what's scaring me about expansion is thinking both sides. PLL, NLL, both looking to expand pretty big. Obviously, PLL is much smaller than NLL right now, but I would assume they're looking along the same tracks of 30 to 35 teams settling into cities, which means these seasons are going to overlap each other. Where do these allegiances start holding? Where do players start to play? Is this where the PLL takes that jump? Because like we mentioned, compensation is going to be big for these guys eventually. And PLL is making strides to be that league that settles down that compensates players for it to be their full-time job. So are we going to see players take a step back from the NLL to play PLL, and then we start seeing a true distinction of, oh, I only play NLL, I only play PLL.
Which I hope is not the case.
But, like, that might have to be the case.
It might have to be.
With just the terms of how many teams they want and how long the seasons would take, they're bound to overlap.
My counterpoint with NLL, we started to see it a little bit this year, where they started playing Thursday night lacrosse, started playing Monday night lacrosse. I think if the NLL can get to that point where they're playing 5 days of a week, fitting in games Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, I think that helps a ton. And I think should and could be the way the NLL develops in terms of scheduling and everything to fit all of those games in. That way, the league is still ending around Memorial Day. Gets a little easier to not overlap with the PLL. And then we have guys playing both styles of the sport. Because I think you just see how good and how well developed so many guys' skill sets get by playing both styles. Biggest example is Matt Rambo, in my opinion. I think both need to be on the table for guys to really make their games as elite as possible. Because you look at Chaos, too. Like, those guys playing together year-round, they're playing a completely different sport than the rest of the NLL. And they're playing a completely different sport than the rest of the PLL because their chemistry is so locked in. And, the PLL pulls a lot from the soccer world. So looking at the Premier League right now, too, there's 20 teams in the Premier League. 3 teams get relegated every year down to, I think it's Europa League is the league underneath. That would be very fun, too, to have relegation added to the PLL eventually. Having, 18, 20 teams be like the max for the top level of the PLL. Then you have that, next league underneath, and that's a bunch of the college guys. It's a bunch of, younger teams, a lot of developing teams. And then you get some of the downswing elite teams later on, and they get relegated. You bring up some of the young guns. I think that would be just incredible for the PLL.
Yeah. I definitely like the idea of regulation, but also it's just what scares me with the model of expansion and multiple leagues is even if they do shift the days, you're talking about guys playing 4 or 5 games in a week, playing lacrosse 6-7 days a week. Like, how many guys' bodies can deal with that high level of lacrosse that many times a week? Do we see guys start load managing? Do we see guys start to get hurt? See if guys, that affects how they play. There's just so many things that come into that. I think having both on the table is an option. I just want to see if it, how they're going to be able to do it, and what type of clauses really are going to, because I believe it'll get worked out. But then, thinking about contracts, player and team clauses are definitely going to start coming into a factor. Do you set a certain number of games that, a player has to play on your team for that prospective league? And, just figuring out the schedule for players that they're comfortable, healthy, and still playing their best lacrosse is my worst worry about the expanding leagues and the seasons overlapping.
Yeah, and I think it'll work its way out. I think both leagues kind of understand how pivotal each is for one another. And that also, starts at the college game, giving more teams a chance to shine in the tournament and getting more scouted players and everything like that. So looking forward to the NCAA tournament this weekend. A lot of fun matchups. Make sure you guys are following us on the Twitter machine at OTBLaxPod on Twitter and Instagram. Follow DJ on Twitter at SCS_NextGreat. Follow me at KBIZZL311. Check out the website, undergroundsportsphiladelphia.com, for all of our written content. Subscribe to the podcast feed, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, we are there. And leave those 5-star ratings and reviews on Apple and Spotify. And, of course, subscribe to the Underground Sports Philadelphia YouTube channel. hit the like button, click the bell icon so you don't miss a single video episode of OTB and all your favorite Underground Sports Philadelphia shows and special videos as well. We just announced Underground Cheesesteaks coming to the YouTube channel very, very soon with Dom filming all that good stuff. It's going to be a lot of fun. So send us your favorite cheesesteak spots as well, OTB Nation. Big thank you to our sponsors for making this show happen. Tomahawk Shades, Kenwood Beer, and Bino Board. Go to tomahawkshades.com. Use promo code USP for 25% off your order at tomahawkshades.com. Kenwood Beer, go to kenwoodbeer.com and use the Kenny tracker to see US Kenwood Beer on tap in the Philadelphia area. You must be 21 or older to do so. And of course, please drink responsibly. And Bino Board, go to binoboard.com and use code BINOUSP for 10% off your order from the homies over at Bino. This has been episode number 222 of the allegedly award-nominated, honorably mentioned, and of course viewable on YouTube Outside the Box podcast, part of the Underground Sports Philadelphia podcast network. For Coach Deej, I'm KB. Till next week, we're getting the hell out of here. Enjoy all the lacrosse this weekend, and we'll catch you guys next time. Peace.
Peace.